Hey Chris, how are you?
Hey Michael, how you doing?
So I can see that you've got a little man in your hand.
Yes, I do.
And he's
And
got his helmet covering his face. Is
Oh,
that because
dear.
he was okay?
He was just on a parachute mission, so he had to get himself back together.
So there is a point of us having this. Is this a doll?
It is an action figure, which is code for a doll for boys.
That's right. And that is actually David Robinson's, his G.I. Joe. And I asked him yesterday, I already knew this, but I know that he had a tendency to do a little pyromania. And I asked him, did you ever use firecrackers with your G.I. Joe? And he said, of course I did. So this doll had a lot of rough play, but yet it's remained in kind of wonderful condition. And I think that has to do with the material that it was made from.
Right.
So what does this have to do with our story?
Well, it has to do with our story because we have the action figure or dolls for boys, and it is where are the boys? Where are the boys? Because when you go shopping, when you go looking for dolls, you see so many girl dolls, but you don't see boys.
But is that really true, or does that just mean that some people aren't really looking for the
That's
boys?
the answer. That is the answer. So we're going to take you down memory lane and look at some boys from the past.
Okay, let's do this. So where do we want to start?
Let's start with what we would think of maybe for boys' toys, which would be boy dolls dressed in uniform.
Okay.
And this is a wonderful paper mache, and he's in a red coat, which he might be British or French, but anyway, but this is what you would think of when you would think of a boy toy. Because,
Or it could also be a fantasy.
oh, absolutely.
A fantasy
Absolutely.
army that doesn't.
Yeah, and one of the things, he has a sword, which, you give a sword to a boy and he's going to use it.
He is going to use it. Let's move someone around so we can see that.
Okay, so let's pull this out.
Yeah. And that's pretty snazzy.
It is snazzy, very snazzy. And so he has his oilcloth boots.
And those are pretty wonderful too.
I know. And, I'm sure he was played with. I mean, he's in terrific condition, but I'm sure he was played with.
Well, I mean, even in the 19th century, boys were rough, but they also knew that they all got a limited amount of toys.
Well,
So
exactly. It's like if you destroyed it, you're not going to get another one.
No, you're not. Mm-mm. So who do we think made him?
I'm not sure. He could be a Voight. He could. But I'm not 100% sure.
With the curls, Chris, do you think that this could be a male or a female?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's just the garb that is determining the costume.
And honestly, a lot of times it is simply the garb that says boy or girl, but there's certain clues for dolls that are meant to be boy
Males.
dolls.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that leads us to this one here. We might as well do it in order. I guess this is a male or it's a female that needs to go and get a little electrolysis.
Now this is a Kessner. It's an alien head, fully jointed, and he's amazing. He's wonderful. The great thing about this doll is it has a lot of mobility still in its arms and legs. And so he's very easy to play with.
And you know what I'm noticing about him, he's actually, I mean, it's not a enormous doll, but for one of these, it's quite large.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, most of them are much smaller than that.
Beautiful original paint. Now, the one behind is intriguing to me, not necessarily because I think it's a great face, pardon me for saying that.
That's okay.
But what I think is so fantastic is the clothes.
The clothes are amazing. He has an overcoat, and then he has a suit.
I mean, this is very sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated, and honestly, I bought this doll for the hat.
Well, where's the hat?
That's a good question. Fortunately, he has a nice suit and a nice coat.
But the coat, I think,
The coat
you know,
is
miniature
outstanding.
tailoring for, you know, 19th century men's clothing is really
I know. It's
hard to find. It's
It really
beautifully
is.
done.
This is beautifully done.
Now we're doing this out of order because we just did it as we put them on this display to look nice. And this is something that I've never seen that you have, is this wonderful wax doll. So what do you know about this one?
I don't know as much as I probably should. He looks like I think he's a soldier of some. I think, but it's almost like he's a courier because he has his
yes,
bag
he does. He has a little
and he has
satchel.
and but he's got boots, and I mean, this is a very military.
Right. Maybe we have someone out there that's a military expert would like to comment. But what I think is wonderful I'm pretty sure that this is an English wax. It has the wonderful brown eyes, which you don't
Yes.
see very often.
Yes.
But I mean, look at this doll. It's completely it's original. And I think sometimes when we see male dolls, we know they're original because ladies don't necessarily like to dress them.
No, I mean, a lot of times
It's a different.
it's a different thing. So for this, the uniform speaks for itself.
Yes.
For male dolls, a lot of times they just think of them as companion dolls to women dolls.
Yeah.
You know, they're the frame for the beauty. It's sort of like in dancing, the man
Right.
is the frame.
Right.
And I think a lot of women, collectors, look at the male dolls as just, a part of a couple.
Sure.
But you have to look at them individually, because individually they're wonderful, and they're not always meant to be part of a couple.
No. And here we have a little boy in a dress. Do you want to explain that to some of our attendees that don't why would this little boy be in a dress?
Well, that's interesting because for boys there was until they were 4 to 6 years old, they wore dresses, just like girls. Practically indistinguishable from girls. As they got a little bit older, you might be able to tell, but they wore dresses simply because for ease of dressing and changing diapers and just being young, walking. Then, and when they were 4 to 6, they would be breeched, and when they were breeched, then they would start wearing. Typically, in the 1700s, they would be dressed identically to the men, but then they started having what are called skeleton suits, which were much more of a childlike. They'd have frilly collars and buttons that were up under cute. And then, when they hit probably 9 is when they started to dress as men. So you can't tell if it's a male doll or a female doll, if it's in a dress necessarily. And one of the clues that would tell you it's a boy would be if it had a part on the side, because boys almost exclusively had side parts.
This we can't really tell because it almost has like a guillotine cut, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. But to me, it reads boy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, one of my favorites is this, and this kind of fits to the description that you just gave of a costume with the frilly collar, but yet it's the doll's wearing pants, but it has this longer coat, but childlike still.
Yeah, this is clearly meant to be a child. I don't, the painting, the hair, but particularly the outfit
Yeah.
is definitely, so it would be probably a boy 8 to 10, because he's been breeched, but he's not wearing.
Yeah, he's not copying his daddy yet. Wonderful. Now here's where basically what you were. We didn't plan this. It just worked out. Here you've got basically what the father would wear.
Yes.
But you can see it's not a man's face because it's got a short little neck, not a long, slim neck.
Right, but he'd have the trousers. He has his frock coat. He has the remains of his cravat, and clearly this would be a male doll.
Can you turn him around so we can see the back of him? And that's wonderfully, beautifully done.
And you can see here, and that was one of the things, is that they spent a tremendous amount of time tying these stocks to get the very, they had all different kinds of knots. So to have that remain, and then this really lovely detailing on the back. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, beautiful. And it's shocking you don't think of males having color, but in their suits, but they did.
And it's in their particularly with plaids, and honestly with uniforms, because around 1800, where after the French Revolution, the British were actually wore much more somber clothes, and the style became much more muted for men around 1800s, and really it's never changed. So this would be probably, I would say, like a country coat, but for the most part, for evening wear and everything, most men would wear very subdued colors. They became, in the 1700s, their clothes competed directly with women, and now there's a distinct difference between male and female
And
clothes.
it was easier for men. Do you think that this doll's a Kestner?
Yeah, actually, when I was looking at this going, I think this is a Kestner.
Okay, I
do
was
too.
thinking that too.
It's got that same sweet face, a little tiny mouth. This one, I don't know who that is.
Well, if you don't need it, I'll take it, because we
actually-
don't need it.
I found his sister.
Oh, aren't you smart?
Aren't I sweet? Yes.
Okay, so
So let's talk about, by the way, since they didn't get to do this, is a little shabby, but this is top hats, and this was probably meant to be beaver, and this was a big part of the male costume, adult male costume, starting in the 1800s. And
is it silk or is it beaver?
I'm trying to. It's got texture. I think it might be. I think it's supposed to be beaver.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be beaver, which eventually they became silk because
There's not enough beavers.
Yeah, the beavers almost went extinct trying to make these hats.
All right, so here we have some. Shall we go with this man first?
Yes,
And we do know that this is a Kestner.
absolutely.
But look at the wonderful leather outfit. It's the body is the outfit, which I think is very clever. But then you've been very busy and you found another version of this.
Yeah.
With the
certainly-
China heads.
Yes, and so I believe there was a specific manufacturer who made these bodies. I think Ann Coleman actually told me that.
Well, we'll have to have her put into the.
But if you even look at the hands,
They're same.
Look at the hand there. Oops. Sorry. There, and then look at his hand. It's just almost like a suggestion of a hand.
Well, I would imagine that hands for most sculptors and painters are difficult to do.
Right, but I'm thinking, see, if you look at his boots and his, it's all, I'm sure it's the same manufacturer, but there were probably different specifications for different
Sure.
manufacturers.
And then this is kind of going back to the doll in the plaid. It's kind of or not the doll in the plaid, but the doll with the brown suit. It's a childlike little suit, isn't it?
Yes, I would
He's
call
been
that.
breeched.
He's been breeched, but he's a young male.
He's young,
Yeah, that wouldn't be a
like
male.
7 or 8 maybe.
Yeah, around that time, because I don't believe an adult male would wear that.
No, I agree with that. But it's beautifully done.
It really is. I think he has like little, his shoes are meant to be painted on like little shoes.
Lovely. And then who's this dashing?
That is a kister.
A Kister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you do see a lot of male dolls for dollhouse dolls. and I believe he is, but there's some wonderful male dolls. I mean,
Oh, in dollhouses. Yes.
incredible.
And this is what we would call oversized.
Yes.
So it's
yes.
not the.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like it, because it's not just a dollhouse.
It shows up.
Yeah.
And he's just wearing a very simple, classic suit. That ultimately they would dress millions of them like this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I love that. And here's an old friend and a new friend. So tell me about this pink tam.
The pink tam. So this.
Do you think it was always pink?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. But the thing was, pink was a boy's color. And it wasn't until the 20th century that they flipped the colors, because they thought pink was a stronger color
Really?
for men. But it was interchangeable. But I know that that would not denote a girl.
Right,
Plus, for
okay.
one thing, girls didn't wear kilts.
Yes.
So, as you know, I
Well,
have...
some think they should, but we all know that.
But so for this one, it's sort of hit a couple buttons for me, because it had a molded hat and it has a kilt.
Fun.
And it's a boy.
And then this little cutie.
Yes. It's a wonderful doll. He has what they call a shako or a busby. Has the shield in the front. He has a wonderful little outfit on.
Now, he should have been in a kilt too, shouldn't he have?
He should have, and actually he should have been, I think he should have been in a military uniform.
But that is such a wonderful, you can tell it's original little
Yes.
suit. So
And
that,
he's got, see, he even has the pocket, handkerchief,
oh yes.
and they've painted spats on his
Oh, I
feet.
didn't notice that. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, they did.
and he's got a wonderful little cravat.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So look, the next one I want to see. Oh, it's really. This one.
This is nice. I wanted to
Oh wow.
show the
Hurt
plume on
somebody
that.
with that.
Yeah.
This is a new one in your collection I haven't seen.
Yes.
So that is a cutie.
Isn't he wonderful?
Now here we have the side part.
Yes, and so that is definitely a boy.
Okay.
And he is wax over paper mache.
But it's very sculptural. Could you pull him out of there so
I
we can
can.
see him? a
He
little
is really, this is really, really well done. I mean, the
So he's-
sculpting is
bit?
amazing.
It is.
Really amazing. And even like the hair and the
color's beautiful.
color of the hair
The wax is
and
really
his
good.
color. I mean, this is a wonderful
And he's
doll.
been beautifully costumed.
Yes, yes. So definitely boy, breached, but
Now, I think that a doll like this is, these are usually, I think, buys.
they are.
When you see them, his physique is great, his head is great, his paint is great. Yet, when we see a table full of them here, we want them, but yet we know that these are available.
Yeah, this one happens to be in extremely good shape, but these dolls are available and they're not priced out of reach.
Yes.
They're really reasonable.
Yeah, I think he's just great.
I do too. I really love him. I was happy I got him.
So we've got the blue suit, the blue bows. So now blue has become a boyish color, huh?
Well, they kind of interchanged
Interchanged,
them. And then
okay.
it was, which is interesting that you would think that it is the 20th century where you would make this huge distinction between boys and girls. But when you think about it, we know that boys played with dolls for a long period of time. And now in the 20th century, it was, okay, we have toys for boys and we have toys for girls. And boys aren't supposed to play with dolls. Now, because of women's lib and everything else, girls can play with any toys. Trucks, blocks, fighter pilot, you name it. But there is still a bit of a stigma for boys to play with dolls when through history they've played with dolls.
Well, I think that if we looked at most of the surviving catalogs of whether it was China heads or paper maches, there seems to be an equal amount of male doll
Yes.
to female doll, but I'm not sure about the actual numbers that were produced.
Right, because the girls like their pretty dresses and they're, that's a different thing. But I think male dolls were produced in equal numbers, and part of the reason they didn't survive is that if they were given to a boy,
Firecrackers.
firecrackers.
Yeah,
You know, Johnny fell in the well. And he's not coming back because he's paper mache.
Okay, so here we have, I mean, this is one that I think could be a he or a she, the little frozen Charlie.
Yes,
But it comes down to how it's dressed.
exactly. Because there's a girl and a boy, but she actually looks more like a girl. So this is, yeah, he has a little suit on.
And I don't think that that's the easiest thing in the world to dress a frozen Charlie
Imagine.
as a boy.
No.
So, and again, I think that, Chris, these are something that you could pick up in original clothes for not having to go take a loan out.
No, but you don't want to get them because this is something I'm really interested in. So
Okay, I won't do it. So,
don't do a big sell job on these.
so here we've got this is a wonderful suit on this molded hat.
Yeah.
So we've got a little wool, but it's kind of halfway dress, halfway pants, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got like jodhpurs on it, which so it's still, I would still be a younger boy, but it is a boy.
Beautifully done. Now here's a folk art piece, and what I thought was really interesting is we were putting them out. The face is very naive as far as artistic achievement, but I think the clothes are very sophisticated.
Yes, they are.
Isn't that interesting?
It is, and I think, you know, the shirt to me looks like it may have been from something else. This doll came with, I love the suit. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
an amazing suit.
It
Let me
is.
see if I can. Oh, dude. Yeah, maybe we're not going to do that.
Well, don't hurt it.
Yeah,
But it's got some great construction to it.
it does. I love the hair.
Oh, the hair is fun, isn't it?
And this doll, there, I have a picture of the original owner.
Oh, do you?
Yes, and she featured this doll and another doll that I have in a parade in Watsonville in 1914.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fantastic. All right. So he's kind of slightly, I mean, it's got no features really. No, it's just a ball.
He's really reminiscent of a gollywog.
Yeah, he is. He is. And perhaps that was meant to be a gollywog, except that it's got really wonderful clothes.
I know.
All right, so then I was intrigued by the little colonel here.
Yes, he actually was one of the dolls that sparked my interest in paper maches.
Really?
Yes, and because I knew of John Darcy Noble's The Colonel.
Colonel and Esmeralda. Mm-hmm. So that's a little wee colonel.
Yes, but that,
Same mold.
but I knew that story and I had read about it and seen the dolls and I really, really liked him. He has such a sweet little expression. And he's very similar to that doll.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's a doll that's not a huge amount of money to get. And then here we have, do you want to turn this so that you've mentioned the part.
Yes.
And this Kessner, and I think it's on the other side. There's
There
a
it is.
definite part in where it poofs up, so that's
Yes.
that's a boy.
This is a wonderful doll. This molding is not at all common. I think this is the first one I've seen.
Mhm. And is it 1840 or so?
Yeah, 1840, great clothes, great little shoes. But they did some wonderful male dolls. I mean, they really did some amazing.
I think time-wise, we need to look up here.
Okay.
And now this one, I want to squeeze him.
Isn't that wonderful?
I really do. I just want to squeeze him like a little.
Turkish outfit, his little hat.
It's just too cute.
Isn't he wonderful?
So now he's basic. He's really an infant. Is he
He's an
not?
infant.
Yeah.
But I think he's a boy.
Yeah. Well, I think they put him in pants.
Yeah.
Now, do you think these are European clothes, or do you think it's meant to be a fantasy?
A fantasy. I think it's a fantasy,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Right, so they're thinking what he would wear in China or
Turkish,
India,
maybe, yeah,
Turkish
India,
baby.
Turkish. But yeah, it's definitely a fantasy costume for the doll.
And he's just tiny and adorable.
He's really a sweet, and he's a Tofling, so he's completely jointed.
And I noticed, and we talked before we started to film, so, I mean, we didn't talk very much about this, but what I think is interesting is almost everything that you've shared with us today appears to me to be in original clothes, except for these two. And I think if they didn't have facial hair, they would have probably ended up being dressed as little fancy ladies. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yeah.
But that's what makes them so special. And you have to, I personally believe, because of the, I can imagine these were just, boys would love this.
Oh,
the
you could
little,
get some. You could get some real playability out of them.
Yeah, they're going over the wall and, stop the charge. And
Yep, I was there. And then you have something in the same genre in this wild costume, which, here he's got bright pink pants.
I know.
And I mean, you can see the trim is still held the right pink, and the pants have faded, but I mean, he's wearing a rainbow.
He is. He's really wonderful. I love this little guy. But I mean, look at the detail on this outfit, and it's just, the scale is off, but it's really wonderful. It's quite whimsical.
Didn't they? Looks like they used little scraps to dress.
Yeah,
him, too.
yes, I'm sure.
And this is the era of Queen Victoria's dolls,
Right.
which they're working with little leftover
I know,
bits and
but
pieces.
look at the side.
Oh, and
part.
his cape looks like it's plush. It's a ribbon with a plush on it. Look at that, like a fur trim.
Isn't that cute?
Isn't that great? And then what is this little?
I think he may have been almost like part of a board game or a game, because I have a little girl almost and it's on the same. They're sewn on
Maybe
here.
party favors.
Party favors.
But that's cloth, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the whole thing is cloth. I mean, look at the detail on this for how small this is.
Oh yeah, it's like a rolled doll almost.
Yes, yes, and there has a girl, and he has the baton, which I was wondering what that meant.
Well, someone out there will tell us.
I'm sure they will.
So, and then we have another one that's dressed like a rainbow. We've got plaid, two different colors of plaid. And do we think this is a Voight, this one?
I think so. I think so. But I
But it's
mean,
so
I think
tiny.
and I also think they were going for this is actually his legs, but I think they were going for that whole, smoking jacket with the turban.
Mm-hmm. Which if our members have watched the other wonderful video that Chris did on dolls with wardrobes, that'll explain a lot of that. But that's just amazing that he survived.
I know, and once again, he's relatively inexpensive. He was actually in a lot.
Well, he didn't even make it on his own, huh? Mm. Now these two, this little one here, he looks like a little munchkin, doesn't he?
He does. But that kind of cap was very popular for boys.
Yeah, very cute. But I think his proportions are hysterical.
They really are. He's got one big head.
Yeah, and simplistic clothes. But can you bring the other down, because I think that one's just out of this world. Now, what do we think this one is?
I don't know. But I see. He's got the luster on the top with the feathers, and I mean the outfit. I mean, this is right up Elizabeth Ann Coleman's and Kathy Turner's alley that they can tell us. And that would be wonderful to have knowledge about him. He's obviously in an ethnic costume, but just an amazing doll. There's so
What a
much
face.
work on this doll.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Because it's not just painted. His mustache and his goatee are actually molded.
Oh, yeah, I can see that they are dimensional. They're not just flat.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the plumes in his
I know, and the work that went into just doing this hat.
fabulous original clothes.
Yes, again.
All right, so we're getting down to your bisque era,
Yes.
and
I'm not very bisky, but
you're not very bisque, but I think that the boy with all that hair, I mean, that's a wonderful doll with that
I
molded
love,
hat.
this is ABG.
All
And
Beck and Gottschalk.
yeah, and the molding and the fact that they can get all those curls and they get this wonderful little hat.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that's a lot of doll.
that's like, come on, this is wonderful. He's a shoulder.
And I think that their shoulder head dolls are beautiful.
Yes.
And the girls are beautiful. But I think if you really wanted to set a girl off beautiful and make it magical, is put it in a pair with a boy.
Yeah. And there's times when the punch of, if you had
pair.
two of those, would be,
Out of this world.
it really would be.
Now this I thought was so not like you, except I do think it is you. This is, and I was surprised because it's such a gorgeous quality. Do you want to tell them who the maker is?
Muramura Brothers.
Yeah, so this is not an expensive doll.
No, this
But look
was,
at the quality.
I mean, this rivals any German.
I think so.
I mean, and even the clothing, but the molding in that face it's amazing, because a lot of their dolls were not of the highest quality, but this one is. And even look at the brush strokes on his head, on his
Oh yeah,
hair.
it's beautiful.
I mean, in this little, I mean, just a wonderful doll.
I mean, if you were going to put a doll in competition in the class of Muramura Brothers, that one would take the ribbon. You know, it really would.
Yeah.
And then who's this little cutie with?
Isn't he cute? He's a Fleshman. Is that
Yeah.
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I always get and I love these wigs, and they do
do too.
come with these wigs. Look at these were actually meant to compete with bisque. Because look at those eyes. I mean, the eyes are gorgeous.
And you know what? When they were new, the paper mache probably looked very biscuit-like.
I'm
You
sure
know,
it
just
did.
as pretty.
Yeah. And then he's got this great little outfit in his
Molded shoes.
Yeah.
Beautiful outfit.
Yes, he's a cutie.
So, Chris, we've looked at all these. When in the leaving out the 20th century, the 21st century, when did the doll making of boy dolls really decline? Do we have any?
So, there were...
Or did it not ever
I
decline?
don't think it really declined. I think what happened is there became a stigma of girls and boys and really making distinctions between the sexes. And then that is really what said, okay, these are girls' toys and these are boys' toys. But I don't think, look at the number of art dolls that were made that were boys.
That's true.
I mean, baby dolls that were boys. I mean, it didn't stop. It's just that as this 20th century, progressed, it became sort of not okay for boys to play with dolls anymore. So they played with Ken, or they played with G.I. Joe, but they didn't call them dolls, they called them action figures.
Well, that's what I call them. All my dolls are action figures. It doesn't matter what their sex is. Well, Chris, thank you for sharing all your wonderful dolls with us. It's been great having you. And
Well, thank you.
And all of us at World Doll Day appreciate everything you do for the doll world.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
inviting me.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.